about the project called the Mukwa Waakaa'igan in Sault Ste. Marie. Do you want to do this?
This project sits on the traditional territories of Anishinaabeg within the Huron Treaty, and nearby communities include Ketaghan-Zibi, Batchewana, and Métis peoples.
Just as a means of introduction, I'm Carol Phillips. I'm a partner at Moriyama Teshima Architects. I'm also an immigrant to Canada. I'm of Chinese, Spanish, and Dutch ancestry, and as such, my personal history is one of migration, immigration, and colonization. Canada was a safe haven for me.
Bonjour, Keishu Gabawik Indigenous, Obishika King and Donjaba, Wabishki Mayingan and Dodam. I'm a lady of smoke. My home community is Lac Seul First Nation, and I've got family in Alderville First Nation, close to Toronto, on my mom's side in Winnipeg and Toronto. I'm principal architect with Smoke Architecture. Smoke Architecture is developing this project in partnership with Moriyama and Teshima. And thank you so much for being here today. It's nice to see all your faces.
The project site is in Canada, in Ontario, but it is at the junction of the Great Lakes Superior and Huron. In Sault Ste. Marie, there is a university called Algoma University. And at the front door of Algoma University stands this building. This is Shinwalk Hall. Until the 1970s, Shinwalk Hall was a operating Indian residential school. The Indian residential school system in Canada stole children from Indigenous communities and their families with the purpose of assimilating them to the British, Anglican, and French Catholic systems. The survivors of these schools suffered indescribable trauma, and with much grace, our client is not only Algoma University, but the children of Shinwalk Hall, who are in their 70s and 80s. They have reclaimed Shinwalk Hall and turned it into an interpretive center where their stories can be told. Mukwa Waakaa'igan, our project, is to sit beside this project and be a space of healing and reconciliation. When Eladia and I first encountered Shinwalk Hall, it was the week after the bodies of 200 children were found across the country in BC in unmarked graves. Beside the project site stands a forest with local trees, but the undergrowth, which should be filled with ferns and wild ginger, has been completely overtaken with periwinkle, which is an introduced species. In some ways, this forest stands as a metaphor for the Indigenous people in Canada. They still stand, but their foundation has been eradicated. When we began this project, we sat in this space and contemplated the possibilities for the project.
Our guiding principles start with the medicine carrier, Mukwa, the bear. The bear is representative of healing and protection, and stands as a symbol of the spirit of this building. When we stand on Mukwa's shoulder, we can see the way forward. We envision the massing of the building as moving northward in that beautiful, graceful way that the bear's body has of emerging from the earth in a gentle angle. And then once you reach that apex of the building, you can see a path forward to the future. You can see the truth of our shared histories. You can see that north direction sharing knowledge, and you can see back to our origins, seeing the water. So that positioning of the bear as a massing pattern for the building is really important. And the fact that once you enter the building, you're under Mukwa's protection. It's also an important part of creating a place of safety after you have this really intense encounter with this former residential school, which honestly they were really death camps for children. They weren't schools at all. So the next guiding principle that we're following is the 7 directions. So you may be familiar with the concept of the medicine wheel, maybe not, but the medicine wheel is a diagrammatic interpretation of a philosophical stance that represents the interconnectedness of all life systems and our interdependence on one another. So if you talk to any Indigenous elder, they'll have new things to say about all the teachings to do with the medicine wheel. But the building is careful to honor those teachings concerning the cardinal directions, the teachings concerning our connection to sky, the direction of up, the direction of down, our connection to Mukwa, Mother Earth, and the direction of center, the direction of self-balance, and the heartbeat. This is the east entrance. This represents the beginning of our journey. And as we walk along that journey, we walk up a sweetgrass braid path. So the sweetgrass braid is actually from Saskatchewan. It's a teaching that came to us from one of our student members who comes from Achapowace Cree Nation. And her teachers told her about the sweetgrass braid being our experience and journey in the present is comprised of our understanding of our ancestors, our shared history. It's a vision for the future, what is possible. And it's also the path of the present, the needs of the present day. So as we walk this building, those 3 paths are evident in how we move through the spaces. So encountering that Shingwak Hall, that former residential school, looking forward to a rejuvenated relationship with the forest through outdoor classrooms that are very permeable on that east side, the direction of new beginnings. And then that path forward through the building itself, following the path of Mukwa to the north, the direction of shared knowledge.
We should go faster.
Water is where we all came from. It's a feminine element. We all were created from water. Water is another element that we honor in the planning of the building. So working together with Trophic Design, Terrence Radford, who's a Métis landscape architect, and Eric Claver, who's another landscape architect. They're fabulous. We marked the path of water through the site and honored it. It actually generated some of the forms of the building and becomes part of that permeable learning environment that is porous between indoors and outdoors.
We only have 2 minutes left.
The Tikanagan is one of the important patterns we follow here. A lot of mass timber buildings follow a very rectilinear post and beam pattern. Here we use the teachings of the Tikanagan, which is a cradle board that swaddles young babies and makes them feel safe as though they're still in the womb. So this lacing inspires the structure and the features of the cladding, representing our honor for our children.
The building massing will occupy the right-hand side on the screen here. The building is organized into 2 arcs. The northern arc is the area of the teaching, and the southern arc is the area of the cultural programming. The site is sloped, the arcs are connected, and create a pathway throughout the building and over top. An important component of the project is to support land-based learning. So a series of outdoor classrooms that are bordered by a stormwater management stream are actually reciprocally reflected indoors with teaching spaces to blur the edge between contemporary learning and traditional land-based learning. The project as well has a major cultural component to it. This building will be the house of not only archives, but the stories and familial records for those who are seeking out to learn about their families and their family histories. And it will focus on the survivors of the residential school system. The upper levels have more informal spaces for the community. And the 3rd floor has spaces for counseling and wellness, as there is intergenerational trauma that exists today and will continue to exist for generations. This notion of healing not only extends within the building, but Waakaa'igan will also aspire to heal the land. Currently, all the green spaces on this university are covered in lawn, and really this is actually a wetland environment. So by bringing back the species that were there before European contact, we will bring back the forest undergrowth, the dry and wet meadows, the riparian landscape, and also aspire to tell stories through the planting. Orange in Canada has become the color of the motto that every child matters. And so planted with Indigenous wild flowers in the color orange, these will populate the land as well as with edible plants to remind us of the gifts and our relationship to nature. And this project will not only be a habitat for the human spirit and to grow and nurture the Indigenous community, but also be a habitat for all our human relations into the plant life, the swimmers, the flyers, and to be a place of healing for the land and all the creatures in this environment. Thank you.